All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this webinar. I'm Rohit from Product Marketing, and I've got Sean with me, who's our technical sales engineer and will be helping me with the demos. Yeah, so here on this webinar, we are going to talk about IPsec, CloudConnexa's support for IPsec and how it makes your deployments simpler. So we have a lot to cover. Let's go through our agenda. I'm going to give a quick introduction of CloudConnexa just to level set everyone. Then we will cover some aspects of IPsec and the advantages it brings to you on its use, and how to configure IPsec for various platforms and what kind of support we have provided within the product to assist you with that. Then we are going to cover some common use cases like site-to-site and remote access and how that works with IPsec. And then finally, Sean is going to present a demo of using the IPsec connector for remote access to a private AWS resource. So what is CloudConnexa? So you can think of CloudConnexa as a cloud-delivered secure networking service. So it's offered through 30 plus POPs all over the world. And you see these dots on the globe here. They represent the POPs, which we refer to as regions. And all these regions are interconnected to each other in a full mesh topology so that there is always a high performance direct route as well as redundant backup routes to all the regions. And the CloudConnexa has a lot of features. So depending on what features you use and how you use it, it can act as a business VPN service. It can act as a zero trust network access technology for you, or you can use it as a solution for secure service edge. Now, from all of these uh, POPs, that's the cloud of CloudConnexa, the service is delivered. And it's delivered using multi-tenant technology. So you can think that as soon as you sign up to CloudConnexa, it creates a virtual private overlay network that encompasses all these regions and that you can identify uniquely with a cloud ID. So the cloud ID, for example, here is company.openvpn.com. And this WPC is providing you advanced routing and security through CloudConnexa. So this overlay network we refer to as wide area private cloud, or WPC for short. And then you connect your resources and users to the WPC by connecting them to any of these POPs that are all over the world. So let's take an example of remote access. So here's this private network you need to provide remote access to. So you configure it as a network in CloudConnexa. So it represents a real private network. And then you need to connect that network to one of the POPs. So now there are two options. One is you deploy a connector software, which is OpenVPN client. And that software acts as a software router, creates an always-on OpenVPN tunnel to a CloudConnexa region close by, and then offers services that you define that as accessible in that network to all the other connected parties. Now, of course, what we are talking about here today is that you have another option, which is instead of using the OpenVPN connector, to use IPsec connector and IPsec tunnel to connect to one of the regions. Once you define the network, you need to define what needs to be accessible in that network. And here we introduce the concept of applications. So applications are essentially services that you want to make accessible using a domain name. So for example, here ftp.test.local, rdp.test.local. And what it does is these names actually also serve as a route to your network. So once you define applications, CloudConnexa knows that, okay, in order to reach this application, I need to use these connectors and reach this network that these applications are defined in. So it's not just a domain name, but it's actually a route. And then because you are using a domain name, you need to have a DNS record for it. So either the DNS record can exist in your private DNS server, which you can point CloudConnexa to use it, or CloudConnexa provides you an ability to set up a DNS record right in the portal itself. So basically, what you have done is you have defined a network, you have defined applications in it, and then you connect the network using a software OpenVPN connector or IPsec to a region. Now, when the remote user, how does the remote user access this? They need to install the Connect client or any OpenVPN client, and that sets up an on-demand OpenVPN tunnel to one of the POPs that are closer to them. It doesn't need to be the same POP to which your network is connected. And then basically the users get access to those applications. So not just applications can be defined, but you can also add another network or another site. And if you don't want to use applications, you can also define a route and IP services saying that, okay, this IP subnet is the route for this network. All the IP addresses in this network can be made accessible through CloudConnexa. So that's a very quick overview of CloudConnexa and how CloudConnexa works. Now, what makes CloudConnexa different? You will notice later on during the webinar too that we have tried our best to make CloudConnexa very easy to use. And it has been designed with the hope that someone who is not a networking expert or a cybersecurity expert can still come in and use CloudConnexa to get the secure connectivity that is needed. So we have made this possible by using and relying on a lot of wizards, configuration wizards, onboarding wizards to help you out. Also, we have added a lot of videos and tutorials in the portal itself. Secondly, we offer a full-featured free plan. So this allows you to use all the features for free, but for a limited number of connections, so that you can see the value of the solution and without any risk, and then upgrade to the number of connections that you want. Third is this unique concept of routing with domain names. As I said, the application domain names serve as a route to the network. And you can exploit that by using it to connect networks that, in fact, have overlapping IP addresses. So plain vanilla IP address routing won't work for them. But this domain name routing will still work. And as you see, it also makes the routing very easy. You don't need to worry about um, IP address subnets and conflicting IP address subnets. You just define applications and see that there is a DNS record present for it. Next is integrated security. And the keyword here is vertically. So within all our POPs, we have built-in security in the data path, in the control path, to provide intrusion detection and intrusion prevention services, and also content filtering or web filtering. So we have 40 uh, plus categories of content that you can block, important categories like malware, etc. And it provides you an all-in-one solution of not just secure networking, advanced routing, but also built-in security. Then we have a lot of features which enable zero trust, like location context, identity-based access controls, and many solutions just appear as a black box in terms of what traffic flows are going in within the VPN tunnels, etc. But here we provide you a high degree of visibility with um, special UI that shows who is accessing what, DNS logs which show all the activity that's happening, etc. Now, what does IPsec bring to CloudConnexa? So a quick introduction, probably all of you know this, but IPsec is a suite of protocols that went to market in the 1990s, and it provides security at the IP layer and encapsulates IP packets. There are two versions of Internet Key Exchange protocols within it, and we support both versions, and that's used to negotiate the crypto suite that's going to be used for the tunnel and negotiate all the keys, etc. So since it's pretty established technology, it's basically baked into a lot of routers, firewalls. It has a broad compatibility across all cloud providers like Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle. Every cloud provider supports IPsec connectivity. Uh, because it's done at the IP layer, it's very fast. It has very high data speeds, so it improves your data throughput. And there is functionality to support redundant tunnels, etc. So it provides you high availability. So by adding IPsec to CloudConnexa, it opens up a lot of options in terms of which network equipment CloudConnexa can easily connect to. So having said that, just a quick look at the IPsec journey that we started. So this is just to assure you that we have done our homework. This service is ready to go and provide the reliability that you deserve for your production workloads. So we started a closed beta with some of our customers who wanted this feature in July of last year. Um, the configurations that we supported were Cisco and AWS. Then we opened it up for all our customers as a beta in September, when our product team added more functionality for Azure and GCP. They determined that we were good to go, meet our reliability SLAs, and we went general availability or GA in November of last year. And in this short amount of while, since we went GA, we currently have 200 plus connectors running IPsec protocol. So now that we are offering choice of tunneling protocols, what you will see is that when you go to configure your network, it will ask you, okay, which connected tunneling protocol do you want to choose? So the default is OpenVPN. You can select IPsec. The caveat here is that whatever protocol you select for the network, all the connectors that you deploy for that network need to support the same protocol. So within a network, all the connectors are homogeneous. So for example, if you cannot have a HQ network with connector A supporting IPsec and connector B supporting OpenVPN. Both of them need to either support IPsec or OpenVPN. But obviously, you can have two separate networks using different technologies. So for here, the network headquarters network is using IPsec protocol. So all the connectors configured for it are using IPsec, and all the connectors configured for the branch is using OpenVPN. Now, here we go to the various platforms that we support with advanced guidance. Here's an example of support for IPsec with AWS. So when you select AWS as the platform, you will see, which is not shown here in this screenshot, but you will see embedded videos in there explaining how to set everything up. And then in this configuration screen here, you will see that we are using AWS nomenclature like virtual private gateway, transit gateway. We provide all the specific routes that need to be configured. So here the /11 route, this is your WPC subnet. This is the subnet from which IP addresses are assigned to all the tunnel endpoints, like the device tunnels, the connector tunnels. And then you see the /12 subnet, which is the domain routing subnet, which is used as an intermediate IP address when you are trying to reach applications. So these two subnets are always present. And then here you will see a /16 subnet, which actually is coming from another network that has been configured for CloudConnexa. So it's saying, okay, for this IPsec connection, you need to add this this IP subnet /16 if you want site-to-site connectivity with the other network that's already configured. And these are the WPC and domain routing subnets. You can also see that we have support for this generic configuration file that you can upload from AWS, which makes the configuration very easy. So it has all the parameters from the AWS side, which is then used to configure the CloudConnexa tunnel. And we support 2 tunnels to AWS because that's one of the options that's available there. And it provides failover and redundancy. And you can also test your connections and view logs. So if there are error logs, you can view them, which gives you an idea of what's going wrong, helps you in troubleshooting and set things up properly. Here's the support for the Cisco router. So in which case we provide very detailed instructions that you can copy paste and send it to your network engineer, or follow these steps yourself. It's pretty exhaustive with all the 5 steps, right? From firewall configuration to the DNS server configuration, which you need to do if you want to access applications. So when you access applications, the DNS resolution needs to happen using CloudConnexa DNS server, the information of which is provided here. Same with GCP. Again, we are using nomenclature which the GCP engineer or will be familiar with, providing step-by-step guidance, testing, etc. And same with Azure. So these are basically tailored scenarios for these specific platforms. But you may ask, what happens if I want to connect to something that is not on your list? Well, then you use the other option. It's available both for cloud providers as well as IPsec routers. And it will provide you instructions similar to what I showed for the Cisco router. And there's also advanced configuration in which you can pick the options for the crypto suite that's negotiated between the endpoints and select the options that work with your platform. So this generic IPsec support with the other option covers everything else that's IPsec compliant. Now, there are a couple of things, if you're familiar with OpenVPN, that is different between OpenVPN and IPsec in terms of how the routes for the tunnel interface is configured. So for OpenVPN connector, whenever the OpenVPN tunnel is set up as part of the setup process, the routes are pushed to the endpoint. So it's automatic. Whereas, as you saw when I showed you the screenshots, when you configure your IPsec connector, we provide you instructions on what the IP subnet route should be. It's manual with the IPsec connector. When new routes are available, which means, let's say you add another network and a route or IP service later on, these routes are pushed to the OpenVPN connector automatically by doing automatic reconnect. Whereas for IPsec connectors, you need to be cognizant of the fact that you have now introduced a new route in CloudConnexa, and you need to manually add them. Similar to routing, split tunnel, when you configure split tunnel on or off in the CloudConnexa portal, if it's an OpenVPN connector, it automatically gets the new route either way. But for IPsec, if you want split tunnel off, you need to go in there and put the default route 0.0.0 route for the IPsec tunnel. So these are some implementation things that you need to keep in mind. Just to clarify with an example, when you configure the IPsec connector for the first network here, HQ CloudConnexa, the instructions will just ask you to add the WPC subnet, which is the one I mentioned before, and the domain routing subnet, which in short here is called DR subnet. When you go to add another network for another IPsec connector for another network, now CloudConnexa knows about the headquarters network. So it will guide you to add not just the WPC and the domain routing subnets, but also to add the HQ subnet when you are configuring your IPsec tunnel. But it's not going to tell you about adding the branch 1 subnet to your headquarters network. So as soon as you added the branch 1 network with a route, there's a new route introduced. So if you want site-to-site networking, you would need to go back to the HQ network, IPsec VPN connection in your platform that you configured, and add the branch 1 subnet to it manually. Same thing, if you add the branch 2 network with an IPsec connector, the instruction guidance will now say, okay, add these two subnets, the HQ subnet and the branch 1 subnet. But you need to remember to add the branch 2 subnet back to the branch 1 IPsec VPN tunnel and the branch 2 subnet to the headquarters IPsec tunnel. So hopefully that clarifies what I mean by keeping track of your static IPsec tunnel routes. Now, just because all the routing is in place does not mean that all the sites have access to everything. That can be your default configuration, but if you want to enforce access control, we allow you to do so, even for site-to-site access. So here you can see that for the branch network, I have just given the branch network access to the CRM application in the headquarters network. So anything, all the devices on the branch network can only access the CRM application, even though routing-wise, topology-wise, etc., there is full access between these two sites. You can set up access groups to control and granularly control what access each site has to the other sites. Okay, now let's take the remote access case with IPsec. Now here, the scenario is that there is no site-to-site communication. All these sites are connected only for remote access. So you will see that whenever you, the IPsec tunnel routes just are constrained to the WPC and the domain routing subnets of CloudConnexa. And if everywhere you have just configured applications, when the remote user connects with the OpenVPN tunnel, the only routes pushed to the to the device would be the WPC and domain routing subnets. Because when the DNS resolution happens for, let's say, ftp.test.local, CloudConnexa will return an IP address within the domain routing subnet. It uses that IP address as an intermediary so that the traffic flow comes within the tunnel, and then CloudConnexa routes it to the destination network and the destination application. But if you did use an IP service or a route for one of your networks, CloudConnexa will push that route to the OpenVPN endpoint when it connects. That way, it has access to that application using the destination IP address. And the routes pushed, even the IP address routes pushed to the end user's device will only be the routes that the user has access to if you use access control or access groups, and you configure your routes in smaller subnet chunks. So here, the OpenVPN tunnel with split tunnel is on. We'll just get the WPC and domain routing subnets and the route defined for the IP service. Similar to what I said before, just because there is remote access doesn't mean that the user has access to everything. You can check before the user gets connectivity, which location the user is in, and you can block or allow access from only certain countries or certain IP address ranges. You can check whether the device that's being used is secure or not by running checks on the operating system version, whether antivirus is running and present, whether there's a client certificate present, whether the disks are encrypted, things like that. And finally, using access groups to provide least privilege rights to only authorized applications. So now I'm going to kind of set up the demo that Sean is going to show. So here we want to provide remote access to this AWS service running on an app server, in a private VPC with this IP address 192.168.1.68. So we configure this AWS VPC as a network, and we provide an application name. Here it is accounting.ovnlab.local. We set up a DNS record for this IP address. And then we have to set up a site-to-site IPsec VPN. So even though it is for remote access, the connection between your AWS VPC and the region, one of the regions of CloudConnexa, is a site-to-site IPsec VPN. And in here, the customer gateway, which is AWS terminology, represents, in our case, the CloudConnexa region. And the virtual private gateway is the IPsec endpoint on the AWS site. And all we need to make sure is that, again, the /11/12 WPC and domain routing subnets get routed properly through the VPC to the virtual private gateway over the VPN connection to CloudConnexa. So with that, I'll hand it over to Sean.
Okay, thank you, Rohit. So let me share my screen here. And here we go. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
So now it's time to see how we can connect our resources that they're on AWS to CloudConnexa using IPsec. As you can see, I'm logged into my CloudConnexa admin user interface. Click on Networks and go to Networks. For this scenario here, we're going to choose Remote Access and click on Continue. Let's give it a name here for our network. And then for the tunneling protocol, we're going to choose IPsec here. And we need to give a name to our connector as well. So I'm just going to call it OVN Lab connector. Oops, let me fix this. Here we go. OVN Lab. Can't type today. Okay. And then we need to choose the region closest to our resources. For me, it's going to be San Jose. And then we're going to click Next. Once you click Next on the next window, now we can see our the information. Obviously, it's offline because we haven't done anything yet, but we can see our region. We can see the tunneling protocol IPsec and the CloudConnexa public IP address. Now, below that, we need to choose the platform that we're going to deploy on. So AWS, we're going to choose. But you can see other cloud providers available, compatible routers available as well. So AWS is what we're doing for this webinar, and I'm going to choose that. Once you do that, you can see there are a couple of instructional videos below that. One is for connecting AWS VPC to CloudConnexa using Transit Gateway, and the other one is Virtual Private Gateway. Today, we're going to use Virtual Private Gateway, and we're going to talk about the differences in a few minutes. But I'm just going to bypass this part, but it's a good reference point if you trying to set up your connection with IPsec. Now, this is where we need to look at the AWS configuration details, the static IP prefixes, gateway. These are stuff that we're going to use in a second. And then step 2, we're going to come back to the step 2 after we're done with configuring our AWS. So we're going to head out to AWS, and here we go. You can see my VPC. Obviously, my VPC is already set up because I've already using my resources. My subnet is 192.168.0.0/20. The very first thing we need to do here is create a virtual private gateways. So under virtual private network, we're going to click on VPG and then create new one. Let's give it a name here. And this is a pretty simple step, basically. Here we go. And then for the ASN, I'm just going to leave it as Amazon default. And if you have other tags, you can add them. But we're going to click on create virtual private gateway. And here we go. This normally takes only a few seconds. Let me refresh this. And here we go. It's done, but as you can see, it's detached. So we need to attach this to our VPC. So let's select this from the action. We're going to choose attach to VPC. Again, pretty simple step. Click on the drop down here and choose your VPC. And for me, let me type this. OVN, here we go. And this is the VPC that we need to use. And then attach the VPC. This attaching normally takes about a minute or so, but we don't have to wait for it. I'm gonna move forward while this is attaching. Let me try one more time. Yeah, it's still attaching. So the next step is creating a site-to-site VPN. So again, scroll down on your menu and choose a site-to-site VPN connection. And then we're going to click on create VPN connection. First, we need to give it a name. So here we go. Give it a name here. And then for the target gateway, we're going to use virtual private gateway again, and we're going to choose the VPG that we just created a minute ago. So let me select that here. And then for customer gateway, if you've already created one, you can choose the existing one. I didn't do that. I skipped that step, so I'm going to create one here. So I'll choose new. And once you choose new, we need to type the IP address. This is where we're going to go back to CloudConnexa and copy the gateway IP address. This is what we need to use. And I'm going to paste it here. For the certificate ARN, I'm just going to leave it as is. And then BGP ASN, we don't really need to worry about because IPsec VPN is going to use static routing. So BGP ASN doesn't really matter here. So routing options is going to be static. And now we need to type the static IP prefixes here. Again, going back to CloudConnexa, we can see the prefixes here. One is the WPC subnet and the other one is domain routing subnet. So we need to copy these one at a time. We can do both at the same time. So I'm just going to copy first one here and then paste it here and then go back and copy the second one. Here we go. And go back to AWS and paste it here. And this is it. So we're done with the for the remainder of fields or options here. Those are optionals. I'm going to leave them as default and click on Create VPN Connections. Now, this is going to take a few minutes, normally a couple of minutes to create. As you can see, it's pending right now. But let's take this time and talk about VPG and transit gateway, virtual private gateway and transit gateway. If you're setting up an IPsec VPN connection to your VPC using a virtual private gateway, keep in mind that's only give you access to resources inside that specific VPC. Now, if you got public resources like public applications or IP services, then you need to be reachable through this VPC. So you want to go with transit gateway instead. Here's why. A virtual private gateway is designed to connect your on-premises network to just one Amazon VPC within a region. It's great if you're working with a single VPC setup, but if you've got multiple VPCs or need internet access, a transit gateway is the way to go. So if your setup is simple and contained, stick with the VPG. For anything more complex or involving multiple VPCs or public access, transit gateway is your best bet. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh this. And here we go. Our site-to-site VPN is done and status shows available. So let's select this and download configuration file. So I'm going to click on download. Here for the vendor, we're going to choose generic. And once you do that, the rest of the stuff is going to be auto-populated. Platform is going to be generic, and software is going to be vendor agnostics and the IKE version. So let's go ahead, click on download. And the file is downloaded. Now we're going to head back to CloudConnexa. We're done with this step one. We need to move to step two, set up CloudConnexa tunnels. And first we need to upload this file we just downloaded. So I'm going to click on upload here, and here we go. And then I choose the file. And as you can see, all the information auto-populates under the tunnels. We're done. This is it basically. It's pretty simple. Now we can test our connection. Let's go ahead test connection on tunnel 1. So I'm going to click on test connection here. And here we go. We're connected. Green light. Let's test the tunnel 2. And this one also should come back. Here we go. We got both connected, both green light. Next, move forward. Click next. Now we got to the applications. So applications basically make it super easy to manage access to both public and private resources by simply using domain names. The best part of it is that you don't need to worry about configuring IP routing for your applications at all. CloudConnexa take care of everything, automatically routing traffic to your applications using just the domain name you've set up. We have to set up a DNS records. We're going to see that. It's pretty simple, but that's basically the concept beyond applications. So we're going to go ahead and add an application here. And for the name, I have an application name accounting. I'm going to choose accounting. Application type, this is where you're going to put the protocols or ports that you need for the application. You can choose any of these ports or configure custom ports. But for this webinar, I'm just going to leave it as all. Click to submit. And then the last part, we need to type the domain name. Mine is accounting.ovnlab.local. Click on add application. Here we go. And if you have other applications, we can add them here. Let's click on next. We don't have IP routes or IP services for the purpose of this webinar, and I'm just going to bypass this and click on next. Now we get to the access group. So basically the access groups helps you set up access control policies to manage how user groups, hosts, networks, and applications or IP services interact with each other. So you can either create a new access group or update an existing one to include access to for any new networks or applications that we just added. For the purpose of this webinar, I'm not going to create any access groups. I'm just going to use the default one, the full mesh that we already have here. So let's go ahead and click on finish. And here we go. We can see that our network is connected online. Tunneling protocol is IPsec. If I go to applications, I can see my applications here. And if I go to connectors, I can see both connectors are up. Now, one last thing we need to do is add the DNS record. So the applications we have accounting.ovnlab.local. So we need to add our DNS records for this application. Let's go to DNS, scroll down to settings, and here we go, DNS. Obviously, if you have your own DNS servers, you plug in your DNS servers here, but we're going to add DNS record. Add DNS record, and the domain name is going to be accounting.ovnlab.local. Here we go. Let me choose this, and the private IP address for this server is 192.168.1.68, and add DNS record. Okay, we're done. Here, everything is good. Now we're going to go to users. And I already had a couple of users here, but I want to show you the user experience when the very first time you need to import their profile. So I'm going to create a new user. Let's call this user Sam. And then we can, for the user groups, again, this is a brand new environment. We don't have the groups, but if you have access groups, you can, or user groups, you can add user groups here. Let's put first name Sam, and then last name. Let's choose do, and then send an invitation email. A user is going to get an instruction, step-by-step instructions on how to download the Connect app and import his or her profile to that Connect app. So let's click on Add User. And here we go. Sam is added here, but you can see the account status still shows created, and that's because Sam hasn't logged in yet. The very first time he logs in and chooses a password, then it's going to be created or changed to created. So this is the email Sam got. If we click on the email, we can see there is some information such as cloud ID, username, and temporary password. And there is a step-by-step instructions on downloading the OpenVPN Connect app and importing the profile. So it's pretty simple. We're going to copy this here, and then I already have the Connect app installed, but there's only 4 steps that basically the users need to follow to do this. So again, copy the cloud ID. I'm going to bring my Connect app here and then paste the ID here. Let's go ahead, paste it, and then click on Next. Once you click on Next, it's going to tell you that authentication needed, again, because this is the first time Sam is logging in and he needs to import his profile. So we're going to get the temporary password here, and we know his username. So let's click on Sign In, and here we go. So let me clean this up and fix this here, and then paste the temporary password. The very first time when a user logs in, they need to choose a password for themselves. So Sam is going to choose a new password here, and here we go. And we're going to click on and save. And again, the very first time when a user logs in, they need to choose the region closest to their location. So let's say that Sam is in Chicago. That's Chicago. And then click on continue. Now it's going to ask if it can open the Connect app. Click on open it, and then it's going to confirm to import the profile. So we're going to confirm that. Now you can see Sam's profile is imported here. I have a lot of profiles here, but normally a user has his or her own profile in here. From now on, all Sam needs to do is just toggle the switch to connect. They don't need to do all those steps again. So we're going to connect Sam right now. So let's toggle the switch, and here we go. Sam is connected. Now we want to test our connection. So first, if I refresh my admin user interface, we can see Sam is online and the account status is changed to active. So I'm going to bring up a command prompt here. And if you remember, we have the applications accounting.ov and lab.local. So let's see if we can ping this server here. And lab.local. And here we go. We get a reply back. Now, let's test the failover because we have 2 tunnels. See what happens if one of the tunnel goes out. So I'm going to bring the both connectors here. You can see both tunnels are up. Let's do a side-by-side window. Here we go. And I'm going to basically suspend my first tunnel or my main tunnel up here. So it's suspended. Here we go. Now, if we look at it, it shows offline. And look here, we got account unreachable for a second, but it came back on. So this is basically how the failover works here with the 2 tunnels. I'm going to resume my connection on this connector. So this is how basically we connect AWS resources to CloudConnexa using IPsec. I'm going to pass it back to Rohit. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sean. To conclude this webinar, I hope that we have shown you the advantages of CloudConnexa's support for IPsec, how we have tried to make the configuration for specific platforms easier for you, and that with the combination of applications and IPsec support and all the zero trust access policies that we showed you, hopefully we have convinced you that CloudConnexa is a great solution for your zero trust and remote access and site-to-site networking needs. I have answered, okay, there are 2 more open questions, I see. Okay. Thank you. And can we have the recording? Yes. Everyone will receive an email with the recording of this webinar. And thank you for the questions. I've answered all of them by typing the answers in. and I'll wait a few minutes for any new questions to come in. If not, we will, you know, disconnect after a few minutes. So thank you for
Uh,
joining. If you have any questions, type them in, and we are still here.
I also want to add that we have a demo of CloudConnexa every Thursday that we go over pretty much every features that is available in this product. You can register for it on our website and get the Zoom link. So if you are new to CloudConnexa, that's a good gateway for you to get a better understanding of the product also.
So there is also a video of AWS networking with IPsec available from our website and also on YouTube. So if folks want to give it a go before waiting for the recording of the webinar, there's a video that Sean made and posted. Doesn't show the whole end-to-end remote access, but it goes through the configuration. Okay, I have a question. Do you have a Terraform setup that can be used to set up IPsec connections? Yes, we recently, okay, I take that back. So we recently did an update on our API. It's API version 1 that has support for um, IPsec connectors set up using API. But I think the Terraform support is using our beta version, so it doesn't have the API 1 version endpoints yet. But it's work in progress. So hopefully, in a couple of weeks, there will be Terraform support for IPsec connector setup too. But right now, it is via API. All right, I don't see any more questions coming in. Thank you everyone for attending and for your time. We'll see you during our demos or in the next webinar. Please fill a survey, which you will see after you close out the screen. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Have a good one.